This is going to be a final boarding call for Spirit Flight 195, services into Kansas City under B-25.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for coming back, hanging out with me. I wanted to make a video on traveling. I travel a lot more now than I used to because I live far from my family and I visit them about 3-4 times a year. So I always worry that I'm gonna forget something. So I've kind of come up with a system when I travel. It's very easy and you probably all do most of these things anyway, but I feel like I wanted to share some things, especially if you're new to diabetes or you're traveling for the first time, kind of go over what happens at the airport, what goes on if you have your pump on you, how to go about security with your pump. So I just wanted to go ahead and do a little video, some tips and tricks and some little hacks, things you can do to make sure that you have everything, you don't forget anything, you have a smooth vacation or wherever you're traveling, whether it be for work. And that all goes well, because there's nothing worse than being stressed out while you're traveling or get to where you're going and realize that you forgot something. One year I actually brought the wrong insulin with me. I was switching insulins and my doctor let me try 2 different types of a fast acting and a slow acting. So I had a different background insulin than Lantus, and then my fast acting was like a Pedra or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. So I got down to, I was traveling to Florida. So it was a 2.5-hour flight, went down to Florida, was about to give myself my nighttime insulin. I had like the pen and I was like doing everything on it. And I'm looking at it like, I want to make sure this is the right insulin. And I'm so glad I looked it up because I was gonna give myself 25 units of the fast acting when it should have been the background insulin. So I took Humalog with me and a Pedra instead of taking a Pedra and then whatever the substitute for Lantus was. So I ended up having to go to the emergency room because I didn't have any way to get the right insulin. I needed it right then and there. So they took me in, they had a doctor write me a prescription I could take to Walgreens. They didn't have my pharmacy down in Florida. I think the nearest one was like 300 miles away. And then that was $3,000. Let's try to avoid that. So let's start with tip number 1. The first thing I do before I do anything, I charge my phone and I charge my blood sugar monitor, because you never know, anything can happen. I've been stuck in an airport for 8 hours before. I've been stuck in an airport overnight with a low reservoir in my pump. So I always charge my blood sugar monitor and I always charge my phone. And if I'm flying in the morning, I'll leave everything charging overnight. And then as far as my pump and everything else, I make sure I always have additional batteries with me. Tip number 2, I write everything down. I separate it into categories like technology, clothes, health and wellness, beauty, and I write down everything, even the dumbest thing I write down. I'll write down like concealer brush, foundation brush, and then, I'll write down Lancet, alcohol swabs, things that I know I probably won't forget or things that I already packed in my little diabetic bag, but I write it all down. Then going along with that, tip number 3, I lay everything out and I have it in 2 separate areas. So I have my luggage I'll have on the floor open with everything around it that goes in my checked bag, and then my carry-on bag, and I have everything with that goes with me. Now, I never actually used to do this, which is crazy to me because it's so stupid, but I never used to have my supplies with me on the plane. I used to always pack all of my pump supplies in my luggage. And then I was stuck in San Francisco at the airport overnight because my flight was delayed 4 hours and I missed my connection, with a low reservoir, freaking out, counting down the minutes to make sure I had enough in my pump to last me till I got home. So I have 1 set of infusions, 1 set of my 1 sensor, you know, an extra thing of test strips, extra Lancets, everything in my little pouch that I put in my carry-on bag that I have with me, and insulin vial. That way, if anything happens, I can change my set and I'll be fine. Then I pack extra of everything else. So if I'm going for, like I went for 6 days, so I only needed 1 sensor, I packed 3. So I only needed like 2 infusion sets, I packed 4. So I pack extra of everything, because if you've been on the pump, you probably have experienced either a malfunctioning sensor, you've opened something and the needle was broken, that happened to me, or the needle's bent. And the needle on the infusion sets is like hairline, so it's very, very little. So I never want to bend it back, because that weakens the needle and you don't want to, you know, run the risk of it actually breaking off while you're taking off your infusion set or putting it in. So I always pack crazy amount of extra stuff, because guess what? You can use that at any point in time. You can bring it back home with you, but it's way more of an issue if you don't have enough. Tip number 4, I double check my wallet. I take my wallet out, I make sure I have my ID. I always take a second form of ID, so I'll take my passport. I always make sure that I have everything, my boarding pass, whether it's mobile, I still print it out too. So I have my mobile boarding pass and my regular boarding pass, because I've also had it where my phone died and I didn't have my boarding pass on my phone. So I always make sure that I print them as well. And you can print them at the airport, it takes 5 seconds. So I double check that, make sure I have everything I need: cash, credit cards, ID, second form of ID, and boarding pass. Fifth tip, when I pack, I have, like I said, everything laid out. I put it in categories. So I'll do all my clothes first, and as I'm going along, I will cross it off, that little handy list I made. I will cross every item off one by one and make sure that I have it. And another little tip inside of a tip. Oh, I heard it. Oh. Another trick is that if you're packing a lot, because I'm lucky enough that I travel light, because my mom and I wear basically the same stuff, so I never pack like any clothes when I'm traveling back to my hometown. But roll up stuff like shirts, roll them up, put them in your shoes. You can fit 1 or 2 shirts rolled up pretty tight inside shoes. And then underwear, you know, pack it inside your shoe. Pack things inside of other things, and that way, I mean, your weight is still going to be the same, but it's going to be more compact. And I also get these little luggage separators. They're like really thin material and they're mesh. So you open it up, you can stuff a lot of stuff in there, and then you close it up, you zip it up, and it kind of creates these little compartments in your luggage. And there's also like bags for dirty laundry, so you can just pack everything in, come home, and just throw that in the wash. So I really like these separators. I've been using them for a while, and these ones have been, you know, I've been using these for a while, and they haven't ripped, they haven't torn, they really haven't gotten dirty. Like, they've been really, really helpful and convenient for me. Are we on tip number 6? Maybe? I'll fix it down here if we're not on tip number 6. I always triple check everything. So I will, if I'm packing at night, in the morning, I will reopen my luggage and make sure I have everything, because I could be tired, I could be stressed at night, then I sleep on it, I come back to it. So always double check, but not in the moment. Give yourself some time away from it, take a break, go do something. If you're flying in the morning, just let it go overnight. In the morning or hours later or whatever, if you have time, come back to it and look at it again with like fresh eyes, or have someone else look at it, compare it to your checklist, you know. And sometimes someone else can realize, oh, you didn't pack socks, you know, or something like that. So either have a second set of eyes check it, or give yourself some time away from it and then come back to it with like a fresh mind and see if you do indeed have everything that you need. Tip number 7, this is more for diabetics, I guess, but I always, before I get on the plane, I stop and I grab a water and I grab candy, because for some reason I like to go low on the plane. I could be at 200 getting on the plane, and then once we're in the air, we're up there, I'll drop to like 70, and that I can't rely on anyone else having anything for me, especially because one time we hit such bad turbulence that they didn't have any flight attendants walking around for the first like 2.5 hours of the flight. Everybody was sitting down. You know, I'm sure I could have pressed the call button if I needed them, but I'd rather have it with me to know that I'm okay and I'm safe. If anything happens, I have the things I need on me and I'm responsible for me. And that really relaxes me a lot, knowing that if I do drop low, I have something. Even though I have glucose tablets in my purse too, I like to have like extra stuff as well. Okay, I know, I look completely different. I had to record this video in portions. Something happened and I had to do some things in my personal life. So I'm recording this the next day, but I just wanted to finish it up so I can get it up for you guys. So I wanted to quickly go over what happens at the airport once you're there, once you're going through security. It really is very, very easy. I used to freak out about it when I was a little younger, when I first started traveling, and now it's so easy. So what they do, you go into the line, you take off, you know, your jacket, your shoes, whatever. I keep my pump on me. So I have my pump sitting right here, like uncovered. So you can see my cords and everything. So I'll leave it like that. And then they usually, most of the attendants at TSA and on the airport, hi. Most of the, okay. Most of the attendants at the airport know what it is and know it's a diabetic pump, and they just say, you can keep it on, just come through the machine, right? So, can you get out of the video? Your ears are in the video. Your ears are in the video, sir. Are you gonna say hi? Say hi? No? Why are you grunting? Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay. So they know what it is and they don't ask you to take it off or anything. So what they'll ask you to do is they'll ask you to unclip it once you go through the little x-ray machine. They'll ask you to unclip it. They'll ask you to rub it like this. They'll ask you to like rub it in your hands like this. And then what they'll do is you'll put your hands out and they'll take the little swabs that check for drugs. They'll swipe your hands, both your hands with it. They'll put it in that little computer. And then within 2 or 3 seconds, you'll get either a red light or a green light. I've never gotten a red light, so I don't know what they do from that point on, but when you get the green light, they say, okay, thank you, you're good to go. That is literally it. Now, sometimes they will pat down the area where you have your infusion site. They don't always do that with me, but sometimes they'll be like, I'm just gonna pat you down to see if there's anything else on you. So they pat down usually where the infusion site is or where your sensor is. They'll kind of pat it down. And then that's literally it. You go through and they make you pretty much put your hands on your pump, make sure your hands are clean, there's nothing on your pump, you're not smuggling drugs inside your pump. And then once they get the green light, they check your infusion site. They don't even like look at it, they just kind of feel like over your clothes, like if your infusion site's on your stomach, they just kind of feel right here for like a second. And honestly, that's it. And it's always a woman that does it for me, so because I'm a female. And I've gotten like checked crazy one time because I had my fracture boot on when I had my surgery, and they had to like, I had to go this way and this way, and I had to do the metal detector on the boot, and then the metal detector went off, and they had to have me take off the boot, and they had to like feel around my, you know, my foot, and it was kind of crazy, but that was a little bit different. But with your pump, it should be super easy to travel. And like I said, once you're past security, you're fine. And before security, no one, you know what I mean? No one says anything. Just in security, you have to make sure this is out and they know about it, and then they check it, and then you're good to go. So guys, that's pretty much it. I hope this was helpful. I hope I gave you a few tips and tricks on how to travel and how to make it easier, whether you have type 1 or you don't. Hopefully you learned something new. Once again, thank you guys so much. Thank you for getting me to 1,000. I think we're at 1,300 subscribers now. Thank you for helping me become a YouTube partner, and this being, you know, this is so important to me, and the fact that I can do it and, you know, it can eventually become a career for me is amazing. So thank you so much for helping me with these baby steps. I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next video. Like always, leave your comments down below. I will talk to you guys soon.